So here you are, and we saw what you just said, whether people believe it or not, or, because you got folks on the left trying to defend them, fine. Crime, homelessness, affordability, environment, debt in California, please. Kamala Harris, that's where you come from. You didn't even want to run for the governor's seat in California. You should have been able to win that one. You didn't want that. Okay, we saw what happened during the election. You had 107 days. Biden put you at a disadvantage. That's all true. But your interview on The View sealed your fate. AOC, I respect her. I respect her passion. I respect what she tries to do for her constituency in the Bronx, New York. That clip of her in Munich was one of the most embarrassing videos we may have seen.
The conversation about the 2028 presidential election has already started heating up, and one of the most unexpected voices entering the debate is sports commentator Stephen A. Smith. Known for his blunt and outspoken style, Smith recently delivered a tough analysis of the Democratic Party's potential candidates. According to him, the biggest issue right now is not just policy differences, but the lack of a clear leader. When you look at the early polling numbers, there simply isn't a dominant figure emerging from the Democratic side.
This is for the 2028 Dem-Pres nominee. You have a leader, but it's not really a clear leader.
So all of that leads you to potentially, let's say, being more in the Democrat camp, which if somebody was going to run for president, that's the place to go, because check out these numbers from CNN.
Sure.
They're all running, and this is just a downright clown car at this point on the Democratic side. I mean, just take a look here. Top choices for the 2028 Dem-Pres nominee. You have a leader, but it's not really a clear leader. It's within the margin of error. You have Newsom at 19%. Then you have former Vice President Kamala Harris at 18%. Quite a weak number for her, given that, of course, she was the nominee last time around. Pete Buttigieg, who, of course, has run before, 13%. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at 12%. This is just a total clown car. It is a total mess. There is no clear front runner at this particular point on the Democratic side.
Recent polling data paints a very uncertain picture. California Governor Gavin Newsom leads with roughly 19% support, while former Vice President Kamala Harris follows closely at about 18%. Pete Buttigieg holds around 13%, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sits near 12%. These numbers reveal a crowded field with no strong frontrunner. For a party preparing for a national election, this kind of split support signals uncertainty and a possible leadership vacuum.
But it is tempting when I see those as the candidates, because I don't believe any of them have a chance of winning. We can go down the list. Gavin Newsom, here you are, and we saw what you just said, whether people believe it or not, or, because you got folks on the left trying to defend them, fine. Crime, homelessness, affordability, environment, debt in California, please. You got to convince me. Oh, so you want us to let you run the country, but we see what's happening in California.
Stephen A. Smith believes this lack of a clear leader could create serious problems for Democrats in 2028. In modern politics, voters often rally around strong personalities who project confidence and direction. But when several candidates compete for attention without anyone clearly standing out, the party can appear divided. According to Smith, the current situation suggests the Democratic Party is still searching for its identity and struggling to find someone who can unite its different factions.
Harris, that's where you come from. You didn't even want to run for the governor's seat in California. You should have been able to win that one. You didn't want that. Okay, we saw what happened during the election. You had 107 days. Biden put you at a disadvantage. That's all true. But your interview on The View sealed your fate. When they asked you, is there anything that you would do differently than Biden? You're like, no, I can't think of anything. Nobody's letting that go. And back to Gavin Newsom. Everybody talked about, you need to move to the center to some degree. Look at it that way. What do? 2 weeks later, you're seen on TV talking about when it comes to transgenders, transitioning from male to female. Even if they're children, you really have no problem with that, with them doing such a thing without parental consent.
Smith began his criticism with California Governor Gavin Newsom. While Newsom has national visibility and significant political experience, Smith argued that his record in California could become a major obstacle. Critics frequently point to issues such as rising living costs, homelessness, and businesses leaving the state. Smith's logic is straightforward. If voters believe California is facing serious challenges under Newsom's leadership, Convincing them to trust him with the entire country could be a difficult task.
I've said this to numerous people who would listen. If my child is underage, you can't come to my child to tell my child to walk down the street to the store without my permission. How in God's name you think you can do something that's serious without parental consent?
We used to not let them go to a PG-13.
Are you kidding me? That is just utterly ridiculous. That kind of soundbite's gonna be held against them. So I think that those two right there, they hurt themselves immensely. And I don't think the Democrats wanted Kamala Harris. And I think that has a lot to do, as you saw her write in her book, she didn't feel like she was completely supported. So how you gonna suddenly get the support for 2028 if you couldn't get in 2024? That ain't gonna work.
Next, Smith turned his attention to Kamala Harris. According to him, Harris faces a different challenge: public perception after the 2024 election loss. Smith believes voters expected a moment of accountability following the defeat. Instead, he argues that Harris appeared to shift blame toward different factors such as campaign strategy and party support. For many voters, leadership means accepting responsibility and presenting a clear plan for the future.
Buttigieg, as I said on Real Time with Bill Maher, he doesn't move us.
Yeah.
He just doesn't move us. It's just that simple. And then you have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC. I respect her. I respect her passion. I respect what she tries to do for her constituency in the Bronx, New York. That clip of her in Munich was one of the most embarrassing videos we may have seen.
Smith also highlighted a specific moment that he believes hurt Harris politically: her appearance on The View. When asked whether she would have done anything differently from President Biden during the administration, Harris responded that she couldn't think of anything. Critics quickly seized on that response, arguing that it suggested a lack of independence or critical reflection. In politics, even a short answer can quickly turn into a viral moment that shapes public perception.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is of course a very long-standing policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point. And we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
The conversation then moved to Pete Buttigieg. Smith acknowledged that Buttigieg is intelligent, articulate, and clearly capable. However, he questioned whether Buttigieg has the charisma needed to energize a national political movement. In today's political environment, charisma often plays a huge role. Leaders need to inspire crowds, dominate headlines, and generate excitement among voters, something Smith believes Buttigieg sometimes struggles to do.
Mitch McConnell, the former Senate Majority Leader, froze. Ladies and gentlemen, we were wondering whether or not he had a stroke. We know he's old. We know there are health issues. That is a vibrant young lady. That is AOC.
Yeah.
Okay? That was not a health issue. You were not prepared. You did not know what you were talking about, and the world saw it. Now, if they had walked up to you on center stage, if they had walked up to you while you walking the streets of the Bronx and just stuck a camera and a microphone in your face, and you were caught off guard, that would be different. No, you flew across the world. You flew across the ocean to attend this conference.
To a conference
You're
specializing in that.
Specializing in that.
Yeah.
And that was your answer. You can't get around that, and the Republicans are going to have a field day playing that at every turn. Do I believe she has a shot to win the Senate seat over Chuck Schumer down the line? Yes. But her as a world figure? Nah.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, commonly known as AOC, received a more mixed evaluation from Smith. On one hand, he acknowledged her passion and ability to capture attention. She clearly knows how to energize her supporters and command the spotlight. However, Smith argued that her strong progressive positions could make it harder to attract moderate voters, who often play a decisive role in national elections.
What is it that you respect about her? Because I've heard you say that before. And
No, I'm just talking.
People do this with Newsom a lot too. Like, he's wrong on everything, but I respect him.
No, what we're saying is, most of the time, everybody ain't into the weeds like somebody like you are. That's why when you talk to somebody like you and others, you gotta know what you're talking about or admit that you don't.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Which you, Megyn Kelly, a bunch of others. I respect everybody because it's like, yo, you gotta know your stuff. And if you don't know, admit you know. Don't walk around lying and trying to hide like you know something you don't know.
Yeah.
So I get that part. But when we talk about respecting somebody, what we're saying is you're listening to policies, you're listening to people spew their rhetoric about whatever their beliefs are, whatever their ideology is, etc. And you see the passion and the fervor and the fight that they have within themselves to go after the opposite side, trying to derail what we may perceive as them striving to do in the best interests of our community. That's all we mean by that.
Smith pointed to a moment during an international conference in Germany where AOC was asked whether the United States should defend Taiwan if China were to take military action. Instead of giving a clear yes or no, her answer appeared cautious and indirect. The clip quickly spread online, with critics arguing that it made her appear unprepared for complex foreign policy questions.
Get into the weeds of policy and what have you, yeah, it can be a bit challenging because sometimes what they're saying may not make any sense when you really, really go through it.
Right, so
and
you
gotta
respect
do it.
that she's playing, in essence.
I
She's
respect
playing in a game and she's playing it.
Well, I don't know that she doesn't know. I know she didn't know that day.
Yeah.
But other times I've seen her speaking on Capitol Hill, she didn't seem ignorant and oblivious to the issues. She had her position and she would try to push it and she would attack the opposition, but she didn't seem lost like she did in Munich. I've never seen her like that before. That's the first time I ever saw her and she looked completely lost. Now, I'm not watching a whole bunch of clips and footages of her, so I'm just speaking based off of the experience of me, what I've seen, but she's never looked like that.
In the end, Stephen A. Smith's overall assessment paints a challenging picture for the Democratic Party heading toward 2028. From concerns about leadership records to questions about charisma and readiness for the global stage, he believes the party still lacks a candidate who checks all the boxes. According to Smith, voters want competence, accountability, and leaders who project confidence. If Democrats cannot rally around someone who embodies those qualities, the road to the 2028 election could become an uphill battle.